It's been sad to see so many journalists attack Final Fantasy XVI simply because they think it's not progressive enough, and I personally have really been enjoying the game. I've been streaming my playthrough, and not once have I gone, oh, this is offensive, or this game was lacking some kind of representation, and we have seen some of the perpetually offended individuals online say that it's failed its female characters, and now Kotaku has released a hit piece against why they didn't do a good enough job with Jill because she's pretty and feminine and not unique enough. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So of course, I am using an archive for this because they only really want hate clicks. That's the only reason why they put out awful articles like this. It says Final Fantasy XVI's Jill should be more than pretty. It's almost like they haven't played this game because Jill has her own storylines and her own backstory, and she is a very unique character, and while yes, she is pretty, that's not the only thing that she's got going for her. It's like they just don't know this game at all. I'm sure that I love Jill Warwick, Final Fantasy XVI's female lead, because her hair is healthy and long, gathered at the end with a ribbon with one delicate braid as ornament. I also love her, I think, because she wears a cream color chemise under layers of blue leather, contrasting like the small icicles that form at the lip of a flower during a confusing spring. She's pretty, but I keep waiting for the moment in Final Fantasy XVI where she becomes much more than that, and it doesn't come. Video games have had this problem for decades, building beautiful women and hoping that beauty is enough. And women in the industry, like Anita Sarkeesian, who discussed aspects of the topic in her popular Tropes vs. Women in Video Game series a decade ago, and Kotaku editor-in-chief Patricia Hernandez, who wrote about perfectionism in Lollipop Chainsaw around the same time, have always been disappointed by it. So this is how they decide to start their article off, with the Anita Sarkeesian name drop. Now, of course, the individuals at places like Kotaku worship Anita, but in my opinion, she's one of the worst things to happen to the video game industry because she is the type of person who wants all women in video games to look the same, to talk the same, to dress the same. If a female character is feminine, that equals in their mind, at least, not in mine, that they are not strong, that they are not independent, that they basically are just a hollow shell, which is the most absurd thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Females in video games, entertainment in general, can be beautiful and be strong and be amazing characters, but to them, it can't be that way. It has to be one way or another, which is just absurd. I do not like Anita Sarkeesian, and I think it's funny they bring up her popular Tropes vs. Women in Video Game series because it really wasn't popular. The only reason why it got views is because people were so against what she was saying. It says, though, but I've recently been asking myself how much of a problem I think it is. Aside from her character design, which has inspired elaborate cosplay and starry-eyed fan art in under a week since the game's release, I like Jill because she's a woman I can relate to in a video game. At a time when mainstream games seem to be warring with themselves over whether they continue to write nauseating caricatures or the Urban Dictionary definition for strong female leads, that's rare. So they almost try to give people like us kind of a way to agree with them because they're saying that she is unique and she is a woman she as a woman can relate to, but at the same time they go on to say that Jill is not really what a woman is. When she's first introduced to us as a child, praying under a full moon for protagonist Clive's safe return, letting a tear glitter down her cheek with no self-consciousness, we're shown that Jill is passionate. Jill insists she's changed after Clive reunites with her as an adult. Out of necessity, she's killed people with the frost spirit she plays vessel for. are you not even going to say Shiva? But throughout Final Fantasy XVI's first act, I only see more evidence of her deep emotion. She cries, and they go on to say that she is silent when she shouldn't be. Now, like I mentioned, it's almost like they have not played this game at all, because they are just straight up saying that Jill is just pretty, which is absurd. She has got this whole arc in the game where she says she doesn't want to be a monster because of course she has killed people with Shiva. She promised her friends previously that she was a slave with that she'd come back for them, and we go and destroy the Iron Kingdom and the Crystalline Orthodox because she says, Clive, I really need you to do this for me. We really need to go together. That whole storyline is because of her, but it's like they haven't gotten to that part in the game, and it's really not that far into the game. It's only at the beginning of Act 2. I don't know what they're trying to spew here, but it's just clearly lies, and anyone who has played even a couple of hours of this game can see that. Now, one major issue that we have seen throughout all of these articles, even this previous one I talked about from the gamer saying Final Fantasy XVI is afraid to let women be powerful, is the fact that, of course, Jill is the romantic interest of Clive from the very get-go when we meet them, and she's like 12 and he's 15. They're clearly friends, but they're clearly very close to each other. They have this kind of, interest in each other. They would protect each other if they had to. And then as adults, that turns into a romantic relationship. And they do not like that. They hate seeing men and women have normal relationships, have romantic interest in each other, and that to them means that her entire character arc and her entire character progression is kind of thrown away simply because, oh, nope, she's just the romantic interest in the protagonist. She is a lead character in this game. She is one of the centralmost characters in the game, and there's very few parts of it where she isn't by your side. You see her progress as much as you see someone like Clive progress. So for them to say that she is not multi-dimensional or all she's got going for her is her beauty is just an awful inaccurate thing to say. And like I mentioned, I also talked about this article previously from the gamer, Final Fantasy XVI is afraid to let women be powerful, and they say things like characters like Jill, Benedicta, and Yut are all better than this, and they basically, boil this down to, spoiler alert, some of them die, like Benedicta, she dies. But again, that fuels an entire character arc, and she was extremely powerful and important for the time that she's around, and she is still important in death. So they just boil it down to, they either die, they have romantic relationships with men, and all of these things to them mean that they can't be strong and powerful, which is just absurd. But this has just been another angle for journalists to attack this game. I mean, from the get-go, months ago, before the title even released, we saw them trying to find a way to get their player base and their, viewers to boycott this game. They said, it lacked diversity, then it failed their female characters. Then they realized that those angles weren't going to work, and then they started saying, well, it doesn't really even know if it wants to be a video game. It's lacking RPG elements. I mean, every little thing they have picked at with this title, and I don't really see that ending anytime soon. They are probably going to have hissy fits when we find out the sales numbers, because I'm sure that they are going to be pretty freaking solid. But yes, this is just another hate bait Kotaku article that decides, of course, to bring up Gamergate's Anita Sarkeesian, Patricia Hernandez, Kotaku's editor-in-chief, and just tries to attack Jill simply because she is a pretty heroine in this game. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.